Welcome to Riverdale After Dark, a podcast about the CW's Riverdale that really is getting to it now. Not a lot of episodes left. Getting pretty nervous here. I'm Alex.
When you walk through the darkness for as long as we have, you realize, some of us realize, that the true fear is there are only a couple episodes left. But others of us realize the only real enemy we have out there is poetry. Because you can't have words that don't add up to sentences. It's too much. It's a threat to our masculine instincts. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are going to be talking about Riverdale Season 7, Episode 18, Chapter 135, For a Better Tomorrow. Lots of stuff you need to know. Bye, Frank. Bye, Frank is the new Bye, Felicia, right? I think.
Yeah, 100%. What a great send-off for a character we've all loved for so long.
We'll get to that
in a second. Get out of here, Frank. Yeah, bye.
The most extended goodbye for any character on any television show ever. Anyway, just to give you a bit of recap before we actually get to that and the bulk of the episode, because lots of stuff is going down here. We're following a lot of different storylines. The main mystery storyline we're following, or have been following over the course of the season, is there is a villainous milkman who murdered Ethel Mugg's parents. Since then, she has come to live in the Cooper household. There's been a bit of mystery bubbling in the background about what the connection between Hal and Alice and Ethel was. We've had a lot of speculation about that and the Milkman murders. We get answers to all of that stuff in this episode, and it ties into that storyline as well as the storyline of why Betty and Alice have been fighting the entire time. Turns out it's weird Riverdale reasons, not natural daughter-mom reasons, as we'll get into in a moment. Additionally, moving over to the other side of this particular storyline, over in the Blossom household, Mayor Blossom as well as Penelope Blossom have been cracking down on the whole town for a while. Previously, Cheryl, along with Tony, said that they're going to bring the fight back to the Blossoms. They're done with them, done with the parents. Find out a lot of wild information about them this episode.
Wild.
Things from previous seasons, which I won't mention here in the recap in the interest of not overloading everything, but I'm sure we'll get to it as we're talking about the individual storylines. Then we move over to Archie. Archie really wants to do poetry. Uncle Frank doesn't want him to do poetry. That's basically all you need to know. And last but not least, cars exist. That's something you should know as well. Kevin and Clay are dating. Veronica and Jughead are dating. Weird.
Big time. They're sitting right next to each other.
Oh, my God. And, of course, Cheryl and Tony are dating as well. So those are the big things you need to know going into the episode. Pete, you've got a question already. What is up, y'all?
Well, don't forget, part of the recap, you should say that if you are in Riverdale, you're in black and white, but if you're about to leave, you return to color.
Big Pleasantville vibes going on this episode, but
gorgeously shot, though.
Gorgeously shot. The whole format here it's not actually a Pleasantville thing. They're actually more leaning into instructional videos that they would show in schools back in the day, mostly about like nuclear terror, but there's a driver's ed one. There's a horror movie that Jughead's in called, I think it's The Incredible Melting Man or something like that. I should have written these down like I usually do, but
sorry. I've got I believe The Mysterious Melting Man. Mm-hmm. Then we had Betty Cooper in Driver's Education, Archie in Shipping Out, and Cheryl in Project Moloch.
There you go. Oh, yeah, the other thing that I forgot to mention on the Jughead mystery front is he became the mentee of a guy named Brad Rayberry, who is a science fiction author who also wrote comics over at Pep Comics. Brad Rayberry was also murdered by the Milkman, and in turn, in his apartment, Ethel murdered the Milkman. That all starts to come together in this episode. Now, lots of stuff going on here, lots of stuff to talk about in all of these storylines, and lots of theories that we were 100% incorrect about.
Well, I think, did you call Ethel?
Right.
Yes,
I did call Ethel.
You called the Ethel reveal. We did the Milkman
By the
stuff.
way, you
I
guys
feel
should
like
all check on Instagram the other day. I did an Ethel reveal. It was not very well received.
Yeah, it was crazy. That you it was the cannonball exploded over your house, revealing that you were having an Ethel.
How many eps do we have left?
We've got 2 eps left after this. Here's what I want to talk about.
One?
No, this is the third to the last.
Okay.
Ep. So there's episode 19.
2 more.
Which is next week, and then the series finale.
Oh my God! So much to cover.
This news segment is my favorite part of our recent episodes.
So much to cover.
Pete's like, wait, how many episodes?
Here's what I need to ask you guys as a general question first, and maybe this is better saved for the end after we talk through the plot points, but I want to just get this out here. So we did talk a little bit about what we thought the structure of these last couple of episodes was going to be, and I was surprised about some things, but I think what we got here was a close-up of all the mystery storylines.
Yes.
Next episode, we're going to get a close-up of the plot storyline, like the memory storyline. And then the last episode is going to be that classic emotional wrap-up of Riverdale. Get all the plot out of the way. The difference here this season is we're getting the 2 episodes before the end to get the plot out of the way instead of 1 episode.
Yeah.
Here's the big topic I wanted to talk about. Where does this mystery rank now that we've wrapped this up in Riverdale mysteries of seasons past? And I'm not asking for like 7 in a row or anything like that, but how do you think this tied up? How did you feel about the mystery on a whole?
Well, I think it's in line with a lot of the Milkman murders.
Sorry, I'll give a brief overview for anybody who was confused about what went on, and this is jumping through a bunch of different storylines, but the short version is that Clifford Blossom and Penelope Blossom are Russian spies. Specifically, I think she was a Russian spy, corrupted Clifford Blossom. They were working for the Russians to create an atomic bomb, or rather a P-bomb powered by palladium.
P-bomb!
P-bomb! That's what they call you, Pete, right? P-bomb?
P-bomb.
They called you that in high school, right? Why did they call you P-bomb again, specifically?
I want to talk about the origin of the sex bunker that we got in this episode.
Hold on. So they're building a P-bomb that's going to blow it up. Ultimately, Jughead and Cheryl teaming up reveal them. And what they also discover is that Clifford had been hiring the Milkman, had a bunch of Milkman uniforms in his closet for some weird reason. But the Milkman was basically his hitman. He was going out and killing people, specifically killed Brad Rayberry because he had worked at or near the maple syrup factory and found out about the palladium, put it in a science fiction story, and they killed him because of that. Ethel's parents they killed because they also got too close to finding out the truth. And
he had the palladium.
About the palladium. And then the mysterious melting man got burned and horrifically burned also by getting too close to this mystery. So that's the short version of it. That's the wrap up there. We do find out a couple of other details about a lot of other things, but Justin, you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say this one it was in line with the actual mystery being much simpler than a lot of our speculation, which I think is very much what Riverdale does. We always think wildly about these mysteries, and it ends up being sort of a little bit more over the plate. This, however, was sort of the most like, what? Wait, because it was like, it was the Blossoms. So I was like, he had a room with uniforms in it? Why? That's a totally unnecessary thing. It's like an evidence room where you get caught with the evidence. Didn't make sense. I also thought it was funny that Cheryl's like, look, I have this, and it's just a milk jug. I'm like, everybody has those. That's not evidence. That's the one thing that isn't evidence.
And she carried a whole glass milk jug. The implication was there were more in her bag all the way to school. Crazy.
Yeah. And there were more. We saw that there was a 6 carrier of milk. Six pack, as it's called, just sitting there in the middle of this shrine to the Blossom murders. So that part was strange. I like the Russian spy stuff. It really, unlike seasons past, the mystery was really, it fit into the episode specifically, as opposed to in the past, everything sort of felt like the show molded around the mystery. And it was like, this feels like a science fiction story, like tie up, as opposed to a big long, grace note that brings it all together.
What did you think about it, Pete?
Yeah, I just felt like I'm glad that we knew, they kind of like dealt with the Milkman murders, and having Clifford Blossom, who is an evil, person behind it, was great. I was just glad that Cheryl got into the walls. You gotta hit the big things here. We're wrapping up. Somebody's got to be in the walls. You got to have someone in the Blossom walls at least once a season. So I was happy for that. The discovering of the men's locker room that is a Milkman uniform collection was
that the same place where he kept his? I don't think it was, but that wasn't the same place he kept his wigs in season 1, right?
No, that was in his bedroom.
Yeah, that was upstairs.
Yeah,
this is downstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He got a lot of secret rooms built into Thornhill.
You got it.
Yeah,
I also thought it was funny the idea
that
that Penelope is straight up Russian. But I was like,
yeah,
because that doesn't track with anything else in the series about like them all growing up in town together. That was like totally new information.
The
that was
stereotypical Russian sitting around talking Russian while drinking vodka. I was like, wow, all right.
Well, speaking Russian tastes better with vodka.
It's true. Really it makes the vowels sharper. Let me throw something additional on this point out to you that I was thinking about it. I know there's been a lot of discussion about this since the episode has aired. In terms of pacing out the mystery, I agree with you, Justin, that a lot of it happened in this episode. And I will say, I had a blast watching this episode. I laughed out loud multiple
fast-paced.
times.
It was great, yeah.
I had a really good time, but there's certainly a big part of me that wishes we had paced out this mystery a little bit more over the course of the season
There's not enough time. There's not enough time.
No, but they're like, okay, here's the thing. I appreciate the fact that they've spent the time working with the characters, building the characters, digging into the characters. We praised it multiple times over the course of the season that they have scenes that are really bulky scenes, spending time with these characters that we love and these actors we love to watch. But I wish, rather than introducing the mystery in episode 2 and then maybe every 3 or 4 episodes being like, a milk bottle, this guy died, and that was it, that we had gotten little pieces like this over the course of the season, like Cheryl finding the mining helmet and being like, what's going on here? Them taking pictures of the mine and being like, okay, we got to get back to this later. Finding the Milkman uniforms in there and not knowing what it means. Maybe the idea was they didn't want to let us get ahead of the mystery, even though I think in certain aspects we did, in certain aspects we didn't. But at the same time, I think it would have felt more cohesively to the fan base and more traditionally Riverdale if those little bits had been plugged in over the course of the previous 17 episodes. Boo. Who likes mysteries on Riverdale?
What are you doing? What do you want? A different show? No,
I want
Riverdale
the same show. We've watched. This is a
Riverdale.
crazy point from you. This is a crazy point from you, Pete. Go ahead, say it, and then I'm going to point out why it's a crazy point.
Fine. Riverdale's insane. I want insanity. It's a thing that, it's the fun of this roller coaster ride is you don't know what's going to happen next. And they've taken huge, wild, crazy swings. So them doing something that is like, no, man, no.
It's interesting because Alex is pitching like a classic Bughead story. And Pete, you're saying, no, you don't.
Throw Bughead on
That's
this.
why I'm saying it's crazy. Is you spent 17
episodes.
17 episodes this season being like, come on, when are we going to get back to the regular Riverdale? I suggest a change, a tweak to the season that would make it the regular Riverdale. And you're like, absolutely not. No way.
Never.
No how.
Yeah.
We got a Jughead mystery here, and those are fast-paced and chaotic, like Jughead is. You know what I'm talking about?
We've gotten this pairing maybe once or twice over the course of the show, but very fun. Cheryl and Jughead together, two tastes that do not go together, but are very fun to watch together. I had a good time.
In response to your point, though, Alex, I think maybe there's two factors at play. In a final season, they had just had so much to do. So there was probably like, the mystery is going to just be in these episodes, and we'll do all this other stuff that we want to do. So there's that. I also think the WGA writer's strike may have affected this as well, because I think maybe they at this point in the season they were like, okay, you handle all this. They just gave the episodes away, and there's less of a room, because I feel like, and I don't know this for sure, but they maybe had to scramble a little bit to make sure they got all of their writing done ahead of the deadline and when the strike actually happened.
Well, I could see this. This is purely speculation, but based on what you're saying, we do know that Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa co-wrote the second to last episode and fully wrote, as much as anyone fully wrote an entire script of a TV show. It's always a collaborative process, but fully wrote the last episode of the show. So given your point about them really just pushing to finish those scripts like the rest of Hollywood was doing, it's entirely possible that his energies were towards those last two episodes. And after they had blocked out the beats of this third to last episode, that's where they figured it out. So I could see that happening.
Very
that
well
makes sense.
Another thing I want to say is, did we know that Brad Rayberry worked at the Blossom Maple
No,
factory?
that was thrown in
That was
there.
new information.
Yeah.
Because that makes me think they did a classic like Lost style process on this mystery where they were like, this mystery's cool, we'll solve it later. And then they got in there like, let's have it be all this one thing rather than a bunch of different things. So, because they very tossed in like, oh, that's right, he worked at the maple factory. I was like, did I not remember that? Because that would have been a huge clue back then. I think instead it was like sort of a little bit
quickly
of
that.
retconning.
I would also say, yes, I felt like there were so many other different directions that they were heading in. And mind you, not speculation is speculation. Whatever it is like, this is not faulting it for not doing the way I thought things were going to go. But I was very surprised that Hal didn't connect to this at all. Like, there seemed to be
Agreed.
clear indications that there was a whole conspiracy. I think, Justin, the thing you've been pushing for with the youth revolt all season, as of this episode, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, it seems like they just sort of wrapped that up this episode too, probably.
Yeah, FBI just showed up for breakfast and
Veronica just knew an FBI agent, and I really thought, and I know I'm biased.
Veronica
it was
knows
Glenn.
everybody,
Glenn. She
especially
knows
in this
Glenn.
episode.
She knows Glenn.
Glenn, he was bringing his
ironically.
1950 style cat briefcase. And getting it
Exactly,
all
which was
checked out.
much larger and had vacuum tubes. Glenn looks younger, weirdly, than he has in previous
Right?
seasons. I was like, what's happening?
don't
It's almost
know.
like he's like, I don't know if this term resonates, but he's like a Benjamin Button. Is that anything that you guys would know about
No, not
on this
familiar.
show?
Not familiar.
But no, I feel like the youth role was so set up, even up to last episode, it felt like it was like, we're going to finally get these people. And in this episode, that part was gone. It was just like, well, they were punished because of their own mistakes. Like Cheryl and Betty were set up to turn on their parents. And then it was just like, nope, they committed moral and actual crimes. So they are being punished by the law.
So since we're talking about the Cheryl Jughead thing anyway, why don't we dive a little deeper into that storyline? Like I said, I love their team up here. There were so many classic Cheryl turns of phrase in here. I should have written this stuff down, but the thing where she says, there's no love lost between me and my father, and I should know he given the chance he would sacrifice me to a pagan god he worships named Moloch. Classic Riverdale line there, throwing way too much information. Classic Cheryl line. And I love the fact that, like, the worshiping the pagan god called Moloch thing also made no sense. Like, there was
Yeah, can we
no
talk about
connection.
that? They just, why the Moloch? Like, it just, you threw that statue on the fire and that was it. Like, it seemed like such a random thing to throw in there.
I think it was.
Hey, Cheryl, welcome to my office. I'm insane. And I worship a little statue. And by the way, if you fuck with me, I could murder you and just blame it on my deity. Like, what kind of random shit?
Well,
was
I
that?
think I agree that was crazy. I think that was more of a genre play because this episode was like, hey, if you were a black and white film in the 50s and 60s, we're going to do an homage to you. And that was setting up just the sort of weird Cthulhuian sort of.
I was just like, am I not getting the Moloch reference? Is this something that I don't know? Yeah, it was like, was this a thing in the 50s? Or?
Maybe it's a specific reference
Everyone
to
worshipped Moloch in the 50s. Everybody.
Yeah, Elvis, other people.
Huge Moloch guy.
That's the only person I can think of from the 1950s.
That's what they called the baby boom, is when everyone got their babies and gave them to Moloch.
Yeah, right.
Boom.
Boom. And then he exploded them. The Moloch thing, I think, was also a chance to get back to that classic Cheryl gothic insane storyline one last time, which we haven't really gotten this season in a surprising way. Like, it's been a much more grounded storyline for Cheryl. So to have her father come out and be like, by the way, we worship this statue now, and also we're secret Russian spies, and our mine has a P-bomb in it. all of this stuff felt to me like, okay, all of those storylines, we always felt like, what is going on with Cheryl?
That picture they were developing of Jughead next to the bomb was hysterical.
That was good.
That was cool.
That was hysterical.
Also, they were using they're undercover. They're using flash photography. So I was like, what?
Let me throw something out at you, which I have a little bit of a total speculation theory about, but a bunch of people hit me up on Tumblr asking, why wasn't Tony in that storyline? Tony is a photographer. Why wasn't she taking the pictures? My guess, Justin, you're our production person. My guess is production schedules, right? Like,
probably, though I would argue, but it was weird. She was in the episode.
Right.
So it's not because there is, sometimes we don't see characters because it's like, well, you're not in this episode and it's a cost thing. But I guess, and that was, I don't know where they shoot the mine stuff, is if it's in a different place or if it is on the lot where they shoot the rest of it. I agree. It was weird. I think it was more they needed these characters. It felt like more of a story choice than a Tony choice.
It felt like
they needed Jughead to do
add-on.
Something, and they needed Cheryl to do something, and it made sense to combine them.
Because the other thing I was saying, just real quick, all I meant about the production schedules is when we talked to one of the directors, he was saying that they were shooting multiple things at the same time. I have to imagine they were doing that. So it's possible that Vanessa Morgan was off doing something else while they were shooting the scene. Potentially.
Certainly that.
But don't you think it would be weird just to be like, and Tony's here to take pictures, and then that was it? You know what I mean? Like,
no, she takes pictures. That's her job on the show, right?
I hear you, but I'm just saying, like, it's we have to spend time on Mullock and other insane things.
Here's what I think. When Tony Topaz isn't on screen, the rest of the characters should be asking, "Where's Tony Topaz?"
Okay. Right. I know that's what you're asking, Alex, and your Tumblr, your TT Tumblr folk. But I think it was maybe let's just say Tony was off screen and she was photographing Cheryl with Jughead taking these pictures. Is that satisfying?
Yes, that does.
That does. Yeah. Great. The one thing I want to say also is we didn't get a big Clifford Blossom villain end speech. He's such a good villain, and this season he was legitimately scary, and we just get to see him arrested sort of quietly. I was like, no big final threat. Cheryl just opens the door, is like, hey FBI, thanks for coming. They're in the other room having breakfast. I'm just gonna watch. I was like, I wanted a turn so Cheryl could twist the knife a little bit, and
one thing that was also a little weird to me about the storyline, and this is just a little thing at the end, but after they are arrested, everybody in Pops is reading the same newspaper about them being arrested. And Jughead's narration is like, well, the FBI got all of the credit, which was a bit of a bummer, or whatever line he says. There's a picture of Jughead standing in front of the P-bomb on the front page of the newspaper. I feel like he got a little credit there. Maybe.
And what credit does he want? His whole thing is just being operating vaguely in the shadows. It's not like he's trying to get ahead.
Paid in cheeseburgers, and he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
That's fair. I also want to just shout out Dr. Curdle shows back up. Love that. And he does his classic move of committing a HIPAA violation by exposing secrets about a dead body in exchange for a comic book or just time with comics. Veronica or something like.
Would you do that?
Great Curdle send up,
right? You do anything for a comic book.
Well, if it's a good comic book. I liked how much Curdle enjoyed the comic. He was like, "Oh, this comic is worth it. I will give you this information." I appreciate how much.
Do you think we're done with Penelope and Clifford at this point? I can't quite tell. I know we're done with Ethel. Ethel leaves because we're specifically told she is the first person to leave. Other people are leaving. But I do wonder how much we're going to see the parents kind of saying goodbye or getting a more particular goodbye next episode.
I bet we get some sort of Alice. I bet we see Alice again, but I think the rest of them are off the board.
And Mary. I think Mary we'll see again as well.
That could be. I think that could be. Though, we can talk about the Archie story, which was maybe the weirdest one of the bunch here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the sound cut out for 10 minutes during the Archie story, and I didn't miss much.
Yeah. Oh, slam.
Come on, dude.
Frank is probably going to be in the next episode. He's still going to be at the front door, popping his head and being like, huh?
Well, he said they're like, Frank, you're out of here.
Frank's dead.
And he's like, you're going to regret kicking me out of here. Your kid's obsessed with short words that aren't in sentences. And he's like, then like, all right, bye. And he's like, I can come for dinner. And they're like, of course.
Yeah.
I was like,
Bye.
what?
See you Sunday.
What
is
was
this?
that? Was of all the things, including Moloch, the pagan god that they worship and potentially we're going to sacrifice Julian and Cheryl to, Frank being told to get out of the house and then getting, I don't know, I want to say a 15 to 20 minute goodbye scene was the wildest thing that happened the entire
It was insane how long they were took, and then the shot of the different shots of like from the back, from the front, Archie holding onto his mom, and I was like waving goodbye to Frank. I was like, get this fucking asshole out of here already, and don't invite. We don't need extra time after you say goodbye to be like, we'll see you for Sunday. Well, yeah, and also can we make plans in the future? It's like fucking go.
I do wonder, and again, I'm speculating wildly in this episode about behind-the-scenes stuff that I literally have no idea about, but Ted Sullivan, who was one of the writers of this episode, is friends with Ryan Robbins, who is the actor who plays Uncle Frank, so I wonder if there was a push of like, we're going to give you a really meaty, really emotional goodbye scene, which, mind you, Ryan Robbins, he's great. He's like totally hateable as Uncle Frank. He's channeling that.
He's great.
Very
He's turning
jacked.
into an action figure.
So yoked this episode. It was wild.
Yeah.
But he's
like,
great.
Hey, Bill Shakespeare over here. I was like, what the?
Yeah. He's great, but he did not deserve as a character, not as an actor, but as a character, that level of a goodbye scene.
Okay, well, and yes, I don't even mind that much Frank time. I just want it to mean something to Archie, but it really didn't, because it was just like, writing poetry doesn't make me less of a man. And I'm like, Frank, stop talking about who's a man. You're gonna go. He's gonna go move in with Keller. You're gonna fight about who's the man of your little apartment.
And also, isn't Tom Keller sleeping in the police station? So it's just two grown men sleeping in the police station at this point. Is Clifford also going to sleep in the police station?
They're going to play jail.
Like a buddy cop show would be fun to watch.
That would be fun.
Maybe it's a spinoff we're setting up.
Yeah. I did appreciate Archie sicking his mom on Uncle Frank, where Archie just finally had enough and goes, you know what, I'm just going to fucking tell my mom and she's going to take care of it for me.
Good Mary Andrews episode. I liked her being like, yo, I am a single mom who's taking care of this house. I can do this myself. Get out of here, Uncle Frank. So
yeah. She truly was. I loved her, the power she took there, and just like, hey man, we don't really know you that well. You just showed up here. Get out. You think you're gonna get Sunday dinner cooking as good as this? Get the fuck out.
Yeah, it was nice to see like her, and she would just shoot Archie a look, and Archie would be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm stepping out of line. Just
let's speculate then. What does this mean for Archie going forward? He is now free to pursue poetry. Is he going to, part of this storyline also is that Kevin and Clay have decided to join the Merchant Marines, and Archie also wants to join the Merchant Marines. And so all three of them are going to join the Merchant Marines, and he's going to do poetry on the sea. Is that what's happening here?
Potentially.
He explained it. He says you got to get out, you got to live life, you get some experiences, and then you come back home and then write about them.
I think we have more to come for Archie, because Archie felt like the character who was least of the core four being set up for a finale here. I mean, Veronica, perhaps close second, who is basically just Jughead's girlfriend and a FBI connect.
I think Veronica is pretty clear at this point.
She also has connects in Hollywood.
Exactly. She sets up Ethel, so Ethel is going to be a storyboard artist. That's what I was looking for. Great. Love that. Perfect ending for Ethel. Very happy with that. Veronica has those Hollywood connections. She's clearly going to become a Hollywood producer. Betty is clearly, I don't know. I think we'll see with Betty, but like she's clearly flexing herself as a writer. Jughead is going to be a comic book writer / screenplay writer or something.
It's crazy.
Like that.
They're all going to be writers and one producer.
Archie is going to be a writer.
Perfect.
Do you remember back in season 1 when we were like, This is going to be 3 writers and a producer.
One producer. That's the core form. The ships aren't of a sexual nature or romantic nature. It's just the ship is them making a movie together. Maybe.
And so just to check in modern terms, given that we support the WGA strike and the SAG strike, so we have 3 members of the WGA and 1 member of the AMPTP. Is that what's going on here?
I mean, that's Alex. That's fucked up. You think Veronica she's with the studios?
I think the last episode is going to be Archie, Betty, and Jughead going on strike against Veronica. I think that's
against Veronica.
While we're talking,
old Betty's going to be like, and then the strike happened.
While we're talking about Archie's almost, like joining the army moment, his like reasoning for joining the Merchant Marines, being like, I do like tying knots, was hysterical.
Very funny. The knots thing was funny because we haven't seen Archie just be good at something in a long time, and to have him come in there and help tie that knot, and then be like, I'm good at knots. And then the Merchant Marine recruiter comes in, and he's like, can we screw around a lot? And he's like, no, this is a very intense job.
This isn't a vacation.
Very funny.
That was great. Also very instructional. Now I know how to tie that knot, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Sailor's knot. Alex, I'm sure you wrote it down.
Yep.
Let me just.
I remember all the steps. Don't ask me.
One thing that is important, I'm going to ask you at the end to just walk us through tying the knot. One thing that I think
about a rabbit through a hole. I'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, I will say the way little rhyme Archie did was like, and you create the hole, the rabbit runs through the hole, then he runs around, then he runs through the hole a second time. I was like, what? Maybe you put some of that poetry to writing a new knot limerick or whatever. But no, what I was going to say sort of more seriously is I do think the important takeaway from this is reestablishing Fred as the guiding light for Archie. Because I think that is we're going to see, we've seen a little bit of that throughout the season and the series, obviously. I think that we're going to revisit that again before the end of the run.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be something that they've been hitting on pretty hard, so I expect to see again. Why don't we jump over? Go ahead, Pete.
While we're at this moment when they're all sitting at the table, I want to talk about Kevin real quick. When they were like sitting there, talking about the bomb dropping, and then they were like, "What are you going to eat?" He's like, Betty, I'm in a refrigerator. Oh my God. Kevin didn't have a lot to do.
The whole bomb scene was great. Clear shout out to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or whatever the movie was called. Jones movie. And yes, Kevin's line about I'm in a refrigerator, legitimate barking laugh out loud.
That was just
so funny.
Mic drop. So funny.
That was just a great comedy scene for everyone. Everyone got to have a joke. Like, first off, the language really gave me the Zorros. We get Juggykins here. Reggie being like, I'd go to Del Creek, of course.
Yeah, the reaction also to Juggykins when Veronica was like, of course I'd protect you, Juggykins, cutting to Cheryl being like, ugh.
Yeah, very funny.
And Archie's whole plan to be like, I'll jump in my hot rod, I'm going to drive away from that atomic bomb.
And to the coast.
Like,
Again, no, well, let's be clear. A huge opportunity to have Archie shoot a look to Betty, Veronica, anyone. And so he's like, I'd get my hot rod and grab my mom, and we would drive west. I was like, give us something here, guys. Give us a little nod.
Can we take a little side trip? And I know, Pete, you're not going to like this, but Archie fans are pretty upset. I mean, all sorts of fans are always upset about it.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Hold on. I just want to talk about this because it came up, but how do you feel about this? We hit the Halloween episode. Things seem to be going good, and they've barely related for 7-ish episodes at this point. How are you feeling, Justin?
Yeah, not great. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if we could get a little, some little crumbs, give us a little piece. Give us a little bit.
That's what they're doing. They're messing with you. They're not addressing it at all in this episode to make you lose your mind, and then they're going to hit us with it.
But let me say, I do think they're saving it. They're trying to resolve this other stuff. They know what, where their relationship bread is relationship buttered. And it's in the ship. So like, I think we're going to get that. That's what the last episode is about. And we're going to get Jabba next episode.
Going to do it. So
because I still back my prediction of the Veronica Jughead relationship is meant to be in place so that when he sees Tabitha, we get that. Yeah. No, I'm talking about Jabba. Bughead is something Sorry, I got to look up in my notes what bughead. I'm forgetting what that means. It's been a long time since that's been a thing. And I think we learned in this episode that Mugshead is the bughead of this season.
No, see, when he said, like,
Mugshead's the bughead of this season.
No, because
Mugshead.
First off, that's hilarious. But I was so angry when Jughead goes to Ethel, you're my, crime fighting
partner in crime.
Yeah, my partner in crime. I was like, boo, that is not true. Historically, that is not true, because in the future, you have somebody that you fight crime with, and it's a whole different level that you haven't even experienced yet.
Pete, I like that you're like, historically, in the future, this doesn't make sense. The words I'm saying don't make sense.
I do. Well, Pete, how did you feel about, and I mean this legitimately, how did you feel about this episode? We got Jughead involved investigating a mystery, and Betty investigating a mystery. Different mysteries, but they were both investigating at the same time.
She used the pin, she used the bobby pin.
She used the bobby pin, she had the ponytail back. Totally randomly.
Ponytail. Like that whip she did when she was like, she said that burn about her parents, like, I don't even need you because I'm getting a driver's license. And then like flipped her hair and like did a pow. I was like, that was unbelievable, Betty. Level 11. It was really impressive. But it was heartbreaking because, I was getting my heart broken all over the place in this episode.
It was heartbreaking because your heart broke? Cool.
Yep. Yeah. But I did like the Ethel and Ben. That was nice.
Oh, you talking about Ethel and Mutton, the hottest couple?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Ethel and Mutton is endgame. I think
was just like, whatever you say, Ethel. And
Jughead's reaction was my reaction when Jughead was like, huh?
Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, sure.
All right, great.
Well, they literally drive off into the sunset. Great shot, beautifully shot stuff. The color transformation. Very cool. Why is no one like, hey, did you finish high school? Hey, did you finish high school? Oh, you're just getting out of here. You and Benjamin Button.
Was it weird that the sign coming into Riverdale is really huge, but when you leave, it's a really small sign? It's like, oh, you're leaving.
Well, objects in mirror, but closer than they appear.
Yeah.
So to jump over to that then, because that's mainly Betty's storyline, the storyline is called Driver's Ed, and ostensibly it's about everybody learning how to drive cars, which very cute, adorable scenes over the course of the episode as they get bummed that they're only going to do parallel parking, and then Mrs. Grundy is teaching them, and they actually end up driving.
Because she's just a teacher now. Don't think about anything else that's ever happened
don't
with
think
her.
About the past. The past never happened. The past is future, and the future is past, right, Pete?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Historically, the future.
Historically, the future is the past, and the past is the future. So all of that stuff adorable, but the main thrust of the storyline is that Betty finds out the truth about Ethel and Hal and Alice that they've been hiding all season. Hal had an affair with Mrs. Muggs. Ethel is his daughter. Meaning we've, I guess, erased Charles from this continuity. Charles doesn't exist anymore. Now Ethel is the illegitimate child, and the Coopers have been supporting the Muggs and supporting Ethel. They want to adopt her, but ultimately she decides, no, instead I'm going to go to Hollywood with Ben and become a storyboard artist. And that's how our story wraps up.
Did anybody else think it was weird that Betty was like, oh, this is the reason you've been horrible to me my whole life?
I agree with you.
I
because
don't know if that really adds up.
They didn't quite nail it, I think. I like the idea here. The idea that...
The idea was nice, and it was very touching between the two of them.
I think just to mention, Major Amick, Lily Reinhardt doing a great job with the material.
Great, definitely. I just feel like they didn't... The idea that Alice wanted a perfect life, and because of Hal's sort of sins, she couldn't have it, and so she took that out on Betty. That's a hard angle to take. Yeah. It's a sort of a tricky path, and I think just from a writing perspective, we didn't quite get there so that they could play the emotion, because I think the actors were crushing the emotionality of it, but the logic of it, they didn't have time to really dive into it or get your teeth into it. So we just got a little bit of the cliff notes of that. I like it as a story choice and all of it. It just, there wasn't enough time to really
it didn't exactly work. And I think part of what didn't work to me about it, we've seen so many wild emotional swings, with Alice over the course of these 7 seasons. It didn't work for me with Betty this season. Like, Betty this season is younger. She doesn't like her mom. She's fighting against her. I could see Betty of earlier seasons forgiving Alice in this way because she's been through it so much. And Alice was like, I joined a cult that was harvesting organs. Just forgive me because I shot this guy who was on a rocket. And Betty's like, sure, sounds fine. Let's just move on and get on to the next thing, whatever it is. Like, that works for me. But here, this Betty is a teenager, is, like you've been pushing a lot, Justin, revolting against her parents. And for her to be like, I understand and I'm mature enough to get the feelings you're going through and we're fine now. It didn't track for me.
Shouts to Alice pouring Betty a little whiskey for their very adult conversation, though. Mm-hmm. Did you see that? That's
1950s, man.
Yeah.
That's how they
Mad
roll.
Men.
What do you think about the idea of Ethel being Hal's daughter?
I mean, it feels, it's like, sure. It's not, it doesn't, that's sort of what I was saying a little bit before. It doesn't really pay off anything in a big way. I think it wraps up a little of what's been on the table this season, but it doesn't have a big whoa factor to it.
Mm-hmm. And it bums me out a little bit. And again, this gets into the speculation thing, which doesn't actually say anything about the show, but just about my expectations. But that we don't get a Hal serial killer reveal.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. That's what, like in the final season, I wanted him to be the Milkman.
Still 2 eps.
Sure. But I wanted him to be the Milkman working for Clifford. So you got the season 1 villain has hired the season 2 villain, and then maybe we'll work in Chick, the real hero of Riverdale.
It's truly the chickless season is problematic.
Jellybean comes back. She's doing videotapes.
Some would say chickless season, the smartest move they've made.
Wow. Well, take that home with you, I guess.
Better than the chiclet season, which that gum's too tiny.
That is tiny gum. Speaking of gum, we get one thing I want to bring up is when Jughead asks Cheryl to play Gumshoe. And then a couple scenes happen, and then we cut to her carrying on a full candelabra around the ponytail. I was like, you think this is subtle? You look like a Liberace is wandering through the salt.
There were a lot of callbacks to previous episodes.
She needed the candelabra to see the draft, though.
Yeah, that's like a classic season 1 thing with Cheryl walking with the candelabra. I think she says, you did a bad thing, Daddy, which is something that she also said in season 1. So there's a lot of callbacks and shout outs and Easter eggs there, which I like quite a bit. What else in the episode? Also,
it's very kind of Scooby-Doo.
Yes, it is very Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
What else in the episode?
Pete mentioned earlier about that we get the reveal of the sex bunker that that Dilton's dad, right, had
Dilton's
it built
family
because
sex
he
bunker
knows it's
that later on they just defile in all manners.
Changes the whole game of the sex bunker.
I was like, it's wholesome, doily family sex bunker that has been handed down from generations.
Here's how much this show has broken my brain. When these things showed up in the episode, I was like, oh, it's the sex bunker, as if it was a returning character. Same thing with the bobby pin in Betty's hair and palladium. And there was the point, by the time they got to the sex bunker, I was like, what is wrong with me? This show has broken me that I'm looking at inanimate objects and getting excited that they appear again.
I think after the final episode, we need to just take a look at what we've done.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, just as we need to look at ourselves, with our final episode of this podcast is us just really looking in the mirror.
That's what we need to do. We need to do a recap of the series finale, and then a week later we'll do Riverdale After Dark: The Reckoning.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
We have it out.
I'm all for it.
Pete and I fist fight over Bughead
just a detox or something.
Yeah.
You were saying like, oh my God, it's the sex bunker. And I was thinking like, why does the sex bunker get a curtain call and I can't get any fucking Bughead love at all? Like you can't
wait, man.
We can't have like, we got to have the sex bunker's got to come out and get a round of applause. You know,
patience,
like I understand
Pete, is what I'd say. Patience.
I would just say, like, I understand Ethel saying goodbye, but I don't need all this time on fucking Frank, and I don't need a sex bunker callback. I would like us to land this plane that we've been flying for all these years. You know what I mean?
Hey, I have bad news for
stressful.
you. I have bad news for you. You're on a plane that crashed 2 years ago. And you've been a ghost haunting this plane that the rest of us are on for all that time. So we're going to land this plane, but got bad news.
All right.
A couple things to hit. I love Jughead and everybody watching them at the top of the episode.
Yeah, oh my God, his face when that was funny.
Very cool. The sick car setups they have in Grundy's all-female driver's ed class, which I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. The whole section of everyone freaking out at the bomb going off, the intensity acting that everyone was doing. Dilton's dad runs in, is like, the bomb is going. It was very funny.
Kevin running around in the background was hilarious as well. That was Cheryl's dream, right?
Cheryl's dream, at the end
Cheryl's
of it.
Dream,
Archie working out on the very first rowing machine that I guess he invented, which was like a string. Ty was like, oh, strange. Shouts to Reggie taking over Frank's bedroom. Big come up for Reggie, even though he's going to summer camp soon. And then, of course, you're in over your crown. And then in the midst of Cheryl's parents being discovered as Russian spies, Cheryl's life changing, the people that she grew up going to jail, she's like, real quick though, are you an item with Veronica? I really need to know this right now. So she's us, really. In the midst of chaos, she's still chasing the ships.
One other quick shout out that I'll throw out there is the mysterious melting man at the beginning of the episode. That to me feels like the closest we're going to get to Afterlife with Archie. Like that seemed like a scene straight out of that with zombie invasion.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do more of it, but that's fine. Happy to see it. Pete, anything else you want to call out before we move on here?
I just think, like, really amazing of Veronica to hook up Ethel. I mean, she got her a job and a place to stay in Hollywood. I mean, holy crap, that's some amazing connections. I'm surprised no one else was like, Veronica, can you like hook me up with that? Because I'll leave right now.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this before we move on. Are we the kind of show that talks about the preview for next episode?
I think we should. That's kind of what I was going to get to in terms of
agreed
speculation for the next two episodes in particular. Pete, I know you don't like spoilers. This is a promo that was put out by the CW. So if you don't want to know this, turn away. We don't know anything further than the promo. Oh, Pete's taking off his headphones. So I think the big thing that you probably want to talk about in the promo is there's a school assembly, right? That was the big thing.
Yep. No, yeah, exactly. I love when people come together. I think
the thing that you probably want to talk about is the fact that Tabitha returns. It seems to be 50s Tabitha at first, but at least based on the promo, it's not purely 50s Tabitha. It's Angel Tabitha. And the thing that you joked about, I want to say in season 2.
Yeah, I was hoping.
Finally happens where Jughead watches Riverdale.
Yeah.
By the way, for anybody listening, Pete briefly put back on his headphones and then immediately took them off.
Took them off. He's like, I don't want to hear this. No, we're not done yet, Pete. It was definitely a joke that I was like, you know what? This is the only show I've ever watched where it would make sense if the characters at one point were like, wait a second, I just want to watch this episode of Riverdale right now, and to be like, cool, they can watch themselves. And then that's literally what Jughead is doing in this preview. Hilarious. But then he has the line, I remember everything.
I love that. Like, legitimately, and this is crazy for a promo, I got choked up. Like, seeing him have that reaction there, knowing that we're going to get these characters potentially remembering everything. I'm a little nervous, just based on previous promos, that's going to be the last scene of the episode. Like, that's going to be the cliffhanger there. But
here's the thing, though. From what we know about the final episode, I don't think it tracks to do that.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think that's going to be the beginning. And because this episode has a ton to pay off. It's paying off 6 seasons of information, technically. And what I think that the episode will end is what we've speculated, that they are going to be given the choice to continue living the dream or waking up from the dream with the real information, and they will.
Old red pill, blue pill situation.
What? I call it The Midsummer Night's Dream.
Red pill, blue pill. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounded like you said rumble, bubble, bubble.
Yeah. My mouth was working there. One thing I did really love the moment where Ethel was like, they're like, hey,
I love that you had
you.
Hold on. You had your headphones off for a full 2 minutes, and you just jump right back and pick up on something completely unrelated.
That's right, because I was looking over my notes and I wanted to.
They do the same thing on All Things Considered. One of the hosts never listens to everything and then jumps back in and talks about whatever he wants to talk about.
So
can we wrap this up? Actually, can we wrap up this
discussion?
To. No, the discussion that Justin and I were having.
I don't care about that. That's over now. What I want to talk about is it was hilarious that they were like, hey, Ethel, we want to adopt you. And she was like, nah. I'm running away from this whole situation.
You could be adopted by the Coopers, you'd say no, right? That's a bad idea.
Of course, you're going to end up dead or something. Yeah,
definitely. To get back to the promo, though, real quick, yes, I think you're correct. Just based on the synopsis, we're going to get more of a choice there. We're going to get characters' memories coming back. I am wholly not emotionally prepared for that just based on watching that promo. But I'm very excited to see that episode. I mean, that's stuff that people have been asking for all season long.
Oh, you're excited to see one of the last 2 episodes of the show ever?
Yes, I love this show.
That brings up a question. Are you guys going to watch the last one or the one before?
I think just the second to last one, and then I'm going to stop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel like I'm top.
Yeah, I'm good. I got it.
Yeah,
they solved the Milkman murders, and so I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm good.
Exactly.
I wonder how much I'm going to cry.
Could you imagine if we stopped
episode.
this podcast?
And just so we agreed, I'm happy.
Hey, man, we've done almost 200 episodes. We're good.
I've been here for just finding out what happens with Frank, and I sort of got it this episode, so I feel good about it.
I do want to tune in next week to see if he gets that chicken pot pie next Sunday. That's my main goal at this point.
Yeah, Sundays with Frank.
Yeah, Pete, you were saying though, I was saying that I'm not emotionally prepared for it. I know you didn't want to talk about the promo, but there is a thing in the promo that got me choked up watching it. I got sad about Ethel leaving. She is a minor character, but she's been here since the first season. I thought it was a lovely send-off to a great actress. Shannon Purser is awesome. So I thought that was really beautiful. So if they did that for Ethel Muggs, who is just a recurring character, what is going to happen when we say goodbye to Archie, to Veronica, to Tony, to Cheryl? I'm going to bawl my eyes out, most likely.
Oh, my God.
Then we'll be there to capture it all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll release video. We'll have a real Ethel reveal, a Muggs reveal. What did we call it at the beginning of the show? I don't remember.
You're like, I'm so emotional. I can't remember anything about this show or anything we say about it at any time.
What is this? What are we talking about? Grey's Anatomy? All right, why don't we finish up talking about the MVP of the episode? Pete, who is your MVP?
Oh, man, it's tough. I want to say Ethel, but seeing Betty break out the bobby pin and do that power ponytail swing, you got to give it to Betty on this episode.
Nice.
Would you say most days, some days, or how would you describe
I would say,
he's so far.
Yeah.
Again, that crash, that went down with him in the plane 2 years ago.
If it doesn't come back in the last episode, I'm legitimately going to be sad. Justin, what about you? MVP?
Got to give it up to my guy Jughead. Great app. Got to drive the ship a lot in this episode, and we didn't talk about some of just the great lines he had throughout.
Yeah,
this is a good Jughead episode, and I think that's what we're getting next episode as well.
I'm gonna take a little swerve here and give it up for Cheryl this episode.
Oh my God! You're like Pete. Oh, you're gonna do the Betty thing? You said Cheryl longer than Pete ever said that.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna say Ethel. This was Ethel's final episode. I really have loved Shannon Purser on the show. She is such just a bright light on screen, from Stranger Things to Sienna Burgess, the movie that she did to Netflix, to every time she shows up in Riverdale. It's just a delight to see her. It is sad to see her go. It's lovely that she got such an amazing send-off here, and I really look forward to what she's doing next. I know obviously we're in a SAG strike here, but whatever projects she does, she is definitely a person that I'm going to follow going forward, and somebody that I will see a TV show or movie because she's just great. So there you go. If you'd like to support this podcast and all the podcasts we do, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Every
Facebook
Tuesday?
and YouTube. Yeah, it's true. Facebook and YouTube. I don't know what I just said there. Check it out and hang out, and we'll talk to you about Riverdale.
FaceTube.
Apple, Spotify, not Stitcher, because that is going away at the end of the month, just like Riverdale. Don't
Just like
subscribe
we
there.
are.
Just like we are. We're going to the Gray Lands is what's going to happen. Or the Sweet Hereafter, I guess, more appropriate to the show. But if you want to follow us in the meantime, at Riverdale Dark on Twitter, Riverdale After on Instagram, Riverdale After Dark on Facebook, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, until 2 more times, we'll see you after dark.
And just real quick, Alex, walk us through that knot that you said that you were
yeah,
just mastered.
So you take the
There's a
rabbit,
bunny.
you put the rabbit in the hole. The rabbit crawls down the hole and eats some lettuce. Then you take the lettuce and you crawl back up the hole. Then you get followed by a... Okay, never mind.
It's like a documentary about a rabbit.